Okay, sit yourself onto your left and then come into a good cross leg position. Try not to kick the microphone over. So just sit yourself onto your left. Let's have a little wriggle about. Just make sure that you feel like you're sitting evenly. Hold onto your knees and lift up into the heart area, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Look down at the floor, look at something that isn't moving. Soften your jaw and your tongue and your throat. Just listen to the sound of the breath. Focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top and emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. And then bring your hands into Namaste. Press the palms firmly together. Lengthen from the armpits into the elbows into the heels of the hands up into the fingertips. And with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. And then with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area, and then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, tip of the index finger and thumb in contact. And then as you raise your head, just allow your eyes to softly open. Hold on to your knees and then elevate the heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation and then with And exhalation, turn all the way around to the right side, drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders, but lifting the spine out of the hips, up into the armpits, keeping the shoulders down, just observing the physical sensation of the turn. Using the out breath to intensify the turn. Just all the time paying attention to your body's response and resistance to the pose. And then come back to the center, hold onto your knees. Lift up into the chest, take a deep inhalation, and then on the exhalation turn to the left. Drawing your abdomen across and your ribs and your shoulders. And then come back to the center. Just stretch out your legs and get yourself a belt for around the feet. And then hook the belt around your feet and then push your feet into the belt, straighten your legs, and then drive the spine upwards. Push your feet into the belt really firmly, so around the ball joint of the feet. Give yourself plenty of belt, and then just feel, can you lengthen from the hips into the heels? Or do you feel like the tops of your thighs are stuck on the lift? If you do, then just shuffle yourself forwards, just roll the buttock flesh out to the side, and then just free up the backs of the thighs, and then lift up into the chest again. So have your feet hip width apart, just so that you've got space. Press the shins into the floor, press the kneecaps into the floor, press the thighs into the floor, like someone is standing on your thighs. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards and elevate the heart area upwards. Just stretching out the legs. Lift up into the heart area. Just come forwards a little bit. If you've got a bad back, then just stay at that first stage, just working in Dandasana, lifting up into the chest. Remember, when you come forwards, you never come forwards with the head. You come forwards, lifting the heart area upwards, keeping the head lifted, driving it forwards with the chin, keeping the chin lifted. If you can reach around your feet, then do. We're not going to come all the way down, but we're just activating the legs, just reminding yourself of the legs and lifting the chest, elevating the heart area upwards, really sharpening the action of the legs, just going back to the legs each time. And then gently release and bring the legs in back into swastikasana. Just hold onto your knees and lift up into the heart area. Maybe this time there's more lift in the chest. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. Stretch your arms out in front, drawing your consciousness into each individual finger. And each individual toe. raise your arms up, but as though you've got a box of air in your hands, and you're just raising that box of air up to the sky, keeping the shoulders away from your ears, squeezing that imaginary box of air, lifting from the hips up into the side ribs, up into the armpits, into the elbows, the wrists, the palms, the fingertips. Squeezing that imaginary box of air. And then release your arms, just rest your hands on your knees, just observe the energy of the arms, the shoulders. Take some deep inhalations and exhalations. And then again, stretching the arms out in front. And like there's a force field holding the hands together, like there's a box of air, raise that box up to the ceiling, squeezing that box over the head. Just lifting up into the chest. Elevating the heart area upwards, and then as you raise your arms down, bring your chest around to the right side, keeping your arms straight, digging the backhand into the floor, and then turning the chest. So is there any difference in the turn? Don't forget to turn the abdomen. Just try and get your belly button to point at that right knee and beyond it. And then come back to the center, raising the arms up, maintaining that consciousness of the fingers, the toes, squeezing that imaginary box of air, and then lowering the arms but keeping them straight as you turn to the left side, bringing your right hand onto that left knee, digging the back hand into the floor, but trying to keep, or into the cushion, try to keep your arms as straight as you can. Keeping the chest lifted and open, turning the chest. And then very gently come back to the center. Just remove the lift from underneath and then just sit directly on the floor. Get a couple of blocks around the hips and then hold onto your knees and elevate the heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just taking deep inhalations and exhalations. And then we're going to go into Sukhasana, so bring your right hand underneath the knee, bring the elbow down onto the block, so that that elbow is directly underneath the shoulder, so we get this triangle. So then push the elbow really firmly into the block, push this left seat bone really firmly into the floor by pushing it away from that right elbow. Lift from the left seat bone up into the chest, up into the shoulder, and then turn the chest, keeping that left seat bone really firmly down by pushing the right elbow consciously into the floor and stretching the left seat bone away from that right elbow. Reach up and stretch over, keeping the arms straight if you can, keeping the chest turning, looking underneath the armpit, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Getting that tremendous stretch along that left side of the body, but keep the left seat bones really consciously pressing down. So you've got to really rely on that right elbow in order to place that left seat bone down. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees. Hold onto your knees and lift up into the chest. So just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Just reach underneath the left knee with the left hand. Bring your left elbow onto the block, making sure that it's directly underneath your shoulder. Push that left elbow into the floor so that you lengthen across into that right seat bone. From the right seat bone, lengthen up into the shoulder so you have this right angle triangle. Turn the chest up to face the ceiling, turn the abdomen across. Keeping that right seat bone firmly down. Extend the top arm over. Just listening to the breath. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Turning the chest up to face the ceiling. Keeping that right seat bone down firmly. And then come back to the center, lift up into the chest. Just observing the energy around the shoulders and around the chest. Just listening to the breath. Draw your chin down to meet your chest, lifting the chest up to meet your chin. Keeping the shoulders away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation, and on the exhalation, raise the chin up to the ceiling, getting that really good stretch at the front of the chin. Pushing the chin up to the ceiling. Keeping the shoulders down. And with an exhalation, bring the chin back down to meet the chest. Feeling the stretch at the back of the neck. With an exhalation, raise the chin up to the ceiling. Again, really stretching out the front of the neck. Keeping the shoulders down. And with an exhalation, bring the head back level. With an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet draw your right ear down to meet the right shoulder, but keep that right shoulder away so you get this tremendous stretch along the left side of the neck. And then on an exhalation, come back to the center and then over to the left. On an exhalation, come back to the center and over to the right. Again, just really stretching out the opposite side of the neck. As you bring the head over, just observe how your seat bones make contact with the ground. Are you allowing that weight to roll over? With an exhalation, bring the head over to the other side. And then with an exhalation, come back to the center, lifting the heart area upwards, feeling that you can really elevate out of the seat bones. Just come off your seat bones and then just come down onto your knees. Have your little fingers on the edge of the mat. Have your palms spread intensely. So you press the palms into the floor, really spreading the fingers. Turn your toes under, step back a little, have your feet as wide apart as your mat. And then come up into dog down. Just lifting up into the chest. Lifting up into the chest, lifting up into the seat bones, elevating the seat bones up to the ceiling, and then straightening the legs, tightening the kneecaps, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards so that the heels start to separate. Just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Drawing the weight of your arms from the heels of the hands into the palms of the hands, into the fingertips, pushing the fronts of the legs through to the backs of the legs. Keep your hands where they are, keep your feet where they are, swing your hips forwards, come up into dog, up, crease of the elbows facing the front, pushing into your heels, lengthening the front chest, up to from the navel to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, to the chin. Breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations, broadening the collarbone by drawing the crease of the elbows to face the front. And then come back up into dog down. Just listening to the breath. And then swing forwards into dog, up. Broadening the chest, pushing into the heels, lifting up into the chest. And then back up into dog down. And then come down onto your knees. Just sit back on your heels. Just observing the energy that you've released so far. Just listening to the breath. And then walk your hands behind you. Have the palms flat on the floor, fingers pointing forwards towards the knees. Have the hands directly underneath the shoulders. And then push the palms into the floor. Lift from the wrists up into the armpits. So if you've got a bad back, you might just want to stay at this stage. Just lifting from the wrists and up into the armpits. Press the shins consciously into the floor. If you want to go further, then tuck the tailbone inwards, lengthening the sacrum spine down to the tailbone. And then push the tailbone up to the ceiling, lifting from the wrists up into the armpits. And then you can swing the head back. So it's a parighasana variation, lifting up into the chest. Pushing the shins and the knees into the floor. And then come down, sitting back on your heels. And then just come back up into just sitting back on your heels in sirvasana. Just breathing even and deep inhalations and exhalations. Just listening to the breath as it enters and as it exits. And then stretch your arms out in front, interlock the fingers right into the webbing of the hands. Turn the palms all the way out and then raise your arms up to the ceiling. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then release your arms and then interlock the fingers the wrong way around, so the opposite. Index fingers on the top of the stack, turn the palms all the way out and then raise your arms over your head. And then gently release your arms. Just fold over the left side of your mat and then have a block on the right side of your mat. So we can do parighasana, the gate pose. So you're just folding this over for a bit of extra cushioning, because you're going to come down and sit back on your heels. Just sit back on your heels for a moment and then lift up into the chest. So this extra bit of cushioning should hopefully allow you to keep your shins down on the floor, because we're going to kneel up in a second. So let's just see how that works for you. So just keep the shins down and then see if you can come up onto your knees, but try and keep the shins down on the floor. Lift up into the chest and then just observe where your shins are. Are they in contact with the ground or have they lifted? Just come down. So if they've lifted, then get a blanket and place blanket on top of the mat. Just spread it out so that you can put your feet and your shins onto there. So having a little bit of extra cushioning should help you keep your shins down on the floor. So just sitting back on your heels again, lifting up into the chest and then come up onto the knees, and then keep the shins down. Turn the tailbone in, lift up into the chest. Keeping those shins pressing down into the floor. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Bring the right knee forward and then really press that shin into the floor. Bring the right knee out to the side. And then, like in konasana, which is a really similar pose to this, you're going to turn this inner thigh from the big toe side to the little toe side. And then bring the chest across to the front. And then stretch your leg out. So maybe you've got the block for the foot. So you don't want to be like this. This doesn't want to stick out. You've got to stretch away so there's a slight incline here. And then turn that chest. So really similar to trikonasana, parighasana, the gate pose. Press that shin down into the floor of the back foot. Lift up into the chest. Keep the abdomen and the chest facing the front. And then just slide yourself down your shin, turning the chest up to face the ceiling. So it's strong in the hamstrings, isn't it? So lift up into the chest, turn in the chest, and then reach up and over. So if you've got space, then you can come down, turn the palm facing upwards, bend the elbow along the shin, but keep the front leg buttock, that straight leg buttock bone pushing forward, turning the chest up to face the ceiling, looking up. That hand should be directly over your foot. Again, a tremendous stretch along that right side of left side of the body. Okay, and then just come back to the center, and then just sit back on your shins, lifting up into the chest. So a fairly strenuous floor pose. fold over the other end of your mat. Have whatever you need. So if you didn't use a blanket last time, maybe give it a go this time. Just see if it makes any difference. Unfold the left side of your mat, and then just come down onto your shins. Lifting up into the chest, up into the heart area. Pressing the shins firmly into the floor, really consciously pressing the shins into the floor. So you can have your feet in line with your knees, in line with your hips. So the feet aren't necessarily, the toes aren't necessarily touching like in Virasana. Lift up into the chest and then come up onto your knees, pressing the shins into the floor. Bring that front leg, that left leg forward, lifting up into the chest, pushing that right shin firmly into the floor. Bring the leg out to the side, turning that inner thigh, and then stretch away, turning the thigh, reaching over, feeling that resistance in the hamstrings perhaps. So try not to let that hip push outwards. Squeeze that hip in. Turning the chest up to face the ceiling and then reach up and over. We're reaching down to the foot, getting hold of that big toe ideally. But obviously that's quite a long way off. Turn the chest up to face the ceiling, keep reaching over, keeping that right shin down. And then come back to the center and then just sit back on your heels. Just observe your energy. Just listen to the breath. Just observe the energy in the hips and in the legs. And then just come off the lift and just come into dog down. So from dog down, we're going to go into rajakapotasana. So have your hands shoulder width apart this time, have your feet hip width apart, and then come up into dog down. So if you don't want to come into rajakapotasana from dog down, then come down onto your knees and then follow the rest of the instructions. So spreading the palms in dog down, lifting up into the hips. So Adho Mukha Svanasana. So if you're coming into rajakapotasana from dog down, then stay up. If you're coming down from on your knees, just bend your knees and bring your knees onto the floor. And then swing the right knee to make contact with the right wrist, leaving the left foot underneath the right thigh, and then stretch that left thigh away, turning it like you're doing Tadasana. Turning that back leg like you're doing Tadasana to keep the hips level. Come up onto the fingertips, lift up into the heart area, up into the chest, up into the chin. Keeping that back leg firmly activated. Turning the front of the thigh inwards, turning the back of the thigh outwards. Just lifting up into the chest. Pushing the knees away from each other. And then bring the heels of the hands down, bring the palms down, turn your toes under. So we're going to step back into dog down, or you can just step back into, you can bring this back leg in and then go back into, just onto your knees. Otherwise, just come back up into dog down. Just observing your energy in dog down. And then either come down onto your knees to come into the other side, or just swing that left knee forwards, make contact with the left wrist, leave the left foot underneath the right thigh and the hip, and then walk that right leg back, come up onto the fingertips. Again, activating that back leg like you're doing Tadasana, lifting up into the chest. So level hips, so you can make your hips level by activating that back leg. Lengthen the knees away from each other. Lift up into the heart area. Okay, and then bring the palms of the hands down onto the floor. Turn your toes under. Either just walk your toes in a little bit with that back leg, and then either go back into all fours or come up into dog down. If you come onto all fours, then once you've been there for a moment and you've recovered a little, then come up into dog down. Okay, and then just gently come down onto your knees, just sit back on your heels and just elevate the heart area up to the ceiling. Just listening to the breath, just observing your energy. And then get your bolster. Have a blanket for your head, and then come into supta, baddha konasana. So pulling the feet in towards you. Just hold onto the big toes for a moment, and then lift up into the heart area, elevating the heart area up to the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down. If it helps to lift your chest, then hold onto the shins so that you can really elevate the heart area upwards. So feel like there's lift in the front chest. And then let go of the legs, just bring the hands behind you, but keep that lift of the chest as you come back and down onto the bolster. Just have the blanket underneath the back of the neck and the head. If you're wearing glasses, it's quite nice to take them off at this stage, just to rest your face. And then let your arms just rest at the sides of the body. So focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. So if the bolster feels too tight in your lower back, then bring yourself back up. Just inch yourself away from the bolster just a little. Give yourself more space between the seat bones and the bolster, and then again lifting the chest, bring yourself back down, and hopefully your back will feel more comfortable. So just focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top and emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. If there's stiffness in your hips, you can put some blocks underneath your thighs. Otherwise, just listen to the breath. Allow those hips to open. Observe the openness of the chest. Focus on filling your lungs from the bottom to the top. Filling both lungs evenly. And emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Just spend a little time observing the sound of the breath. Observing the breath's duration. Taking deep inhalations and exhalations. Just observing how the chest rises upwards and outwards with the inhalation. How the chest relaxes with the exhalation. And then as you exhale, allow the body to release into the floor. As you inhale, feel the chest rise upwards and outwards. As you exhale, feel your chest sinking into the ground. Okay, so we're going to move into the second stage of ujjayi pranayama, which is normal inhalations and slow, deep, steady exhalations until the lungs are empty. So a slightly longer, deeper exhalation and then normal inhalation. So when you're ready, take a normal exhalation, normal inhalation, and then a slow, deep, steady exhalation until the lungs are empty. So there should be no strain with the out breath, just a normal exhalation, but just longer than usual. Followed by a normal inhalation. So slow, deep, steady exhalation till the lungs are empty. And normal inhalation. Just continuous cycles. Okay, and then bringing your breath back to a normal rhythm. Just normal inhalations, normal exhalations. And when you have recovered, push your elbows into the floor, lift the chest, try not to poke your head forwards as you come up. Just get hold of the big toes. Just lift up again into baddha konasana. Just breathing normal inhalations and exhalations. And then come into cross legs, but do the unnatural cross legs. So just swap the legs so that you do the unnatural cross legs. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest. Elevating the heart area upwards. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the right side. Just drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders, keeping the neck soft. And then come back to the center. Just hold on to your knees, lift up into the chest. And then turn to the left. Digging the back hand into the floor, lifting up into the chest, turning the abdomen and the ribs. And then gently come back to the center. Just move the bolster and then have that for underneath your knees. Have a blanket for underneath your head, and then just lay yourself down in a good straight line right down the center of your mat. Just release your head and your neck onto the folded blanket, and allow yourself to release into the floor. If you feel that you're not even, just adjust for a moment. And then allow yourself to relax. Just allowing yourself to just completely release into the floor. Observing that feeling of lightness in the bones that radiates into the muscles. radiates into the organs and the flesh and the skin. Just basking in that energetic glow of positive energy that we release through our practice, allowing it to spread into the toes and into the fingers and up into the top of the head. And then when you're ready, just wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, and bring your feet onto the bolster. Rest your feet on the bolster, have the feet apart, the knees together, just resting your back into the floor. And then draw your knees in towards your chest, just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll over onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then stretching out the top leg, coming back up into a seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift, elevating the heart area upwards, drawing your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the reclining poses bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek, to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. and then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. Index finger in contact with the thumb, stretching the other fingers away, just a gesture of peacefulness and wisdom. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you have stretched out your energy, giving yourself a little bit of mental energy to put into